Morning guys, Dwayne Lulu here, Spots and Dots. So this morning we're not hunting or fishing, working on my wife's van. It's a 2009 Honda Odyssey, and I'm replacing the hub assembly for the bearings. You can hear the bearings roaring in it, so we know that the bearings have got to be replaced. So that's what we're doing today, guys. Stay tuned. Before you jack that car up though, guys, make sure you put some wheel chocks down. Here's the replacement part. That's what it looks like, guys. I went with a Moog. Moog makes pretty good stuff, so that's what I'm going with. So we got to go ahead and get this car jacked up. Got the jack. I'll be putting this down for my jack stand. I don't ever put my jack stand down on just a straight ground. Now if I was on concrete, fine, but not just a straight ground. So, and I'm putting a piece of 2x4 underneath my jack. So we'll get all that set up, and we're gonna go ahead and take the tire off, guys, and get to it. Alright, so if you don't know already, on Honda Odysseys, you put your jack, it's just forward of the rear tire. There's the rear tire, and you can see, if you can, this is all plastic. You don't set your jack on that. You come a little bit forward of this plastic on this rail right here, and you see a metal piece. This is where you put your jack, in the middle of that right there. That is where it goes, guys. Alright, so we got that jacked up. I'm gonna use my Milwaukee impact wrench, 1/2 inch. These lug nuts are 22mm. This thing makes quick work. Alright, so I got my jack stand put in the most feasible place I could see to put it. And it's right up underneath here, guys. I don't know what this little plate's called, but it's level. So I got it sitting underneath there. I'm going to lower it down just to where it's barely kind of sitting on top of it. And all this is safety precautions, guys, to keep this, if it rocks or whatever, don't fall all the way to the ground, or don't fall on you. I don't want to put it on this because it's not level. If I was to put it on that and it went to fall, it would kick that stand out. So make sure you put it on something that's going to be level. Alright guys, so I lowered it just a little bit, and it's sitting right on top of it just fine. So first thing we're going to do is get this brake off of here. This whole brake caliper piece has got to come off, guys. Alright, so first thing you're going to want to do is get this bolt loose right here. This one, this is the big one. You got the big bolt and you got a small bolt for your brakes. The same thing on the bottom. You got a big bolt down here, and you got a small one down here underneath the caliper down there. Alright, we're going to loosen these big ones. They're 17mm. Alright guys, so we got them bolts out. And all you do is just pull this out. Alright, and remember, it's lefty loosey, righty tighty. When you're working on the right hand side of your vehicle, forward towards the front is loose. Turning your bolts back is tightening them. When you're on the left side of the vehicle, you'll be turning them back, we'll be loosening them. Going forward, we'll be tightening them, okay? Because you're on the opposite side of the vehicle. So just remember that if you're working on the left-hand side. Working on the left-hand side is the same thing as working on the right-hand side when it comes to changing your brakes. Doing what we're doing today, changing this whole hub assembly with the bearing in it. Alright, so we took that piece off. I got it sitting right here on this little dude right here. So next, we're going to take this off. All we got to do is take these 2 screws out, in which, to be 100% honest with you, they really don't need to be in there, because what holds this on is your lug nuts. So, but for whatever reason, I've always kept them in. I've done this job once before. But anyways, so we're gonna get them screws out of there. Alright guys, so seems like I've already made my first mistake. Do not take your brakes off if you have these screws in. Make sure you leave your brakes on. So I'm gonna have to get a way to hold this down and get these screws out, because these things are pretty tight. I do remember that they were tight, but I did not remember to leave my brakes on and take them out. So leave your brakes on till you get these screws out, guys. Don't do what I did. Alright, so we got them screws out. Now this just comes off. Just work it out. And this is your rotor right here, guys. So I'm gonna work that off and get that off of there. Alright guys, so we got that off. Now what you're gonna want to do is look inside there, and you see the bolts. There's one, there's another one over here, there's that one, there's two on the bottom, there's one right there, and there's one over here on this side. Those 4 bolts, you want to see where that is and correspond to the back side, to which bolt that is on the back side, guys. The upper left hand side on my left. Alright, come back here, and that bolt is right there. That's that bolt right there. Alright, so that's what you got to do. The next one is down here, down inside there. This top right one, it's just underneath all this. It's underneath there. It is not that one right there. It's not that one. It's up underneath here. Alright, and the next one is going to be down inside, back behind that deal right here. I guess that's your brake sensor or something like that. It's going to be back behind there. These bolts are 17mm also, so we're going to break all of them free, and we're going to pull that out. Alright guys, so we got it out of there. There's the old piece right there. Now all you got to do is work in reverse, put them back in. One thing I did have to do is I had to take this brake caliper and switch it from positions. I had it resting down there in order to get some bolts out down there. I had to put it up here and let it rest, kind of back and forth. So these bolts aren't the easiest to get to, but if you're confident with your skills, you can get to it. Alright guys, so I put them bolts back in, and what I did was I worked them on with my finger just to get them in there. And I took this deep well socket, 17mm, and I put them on there, and I turned them like that as far as I could, and they went down a really good way. So now all I really have to do is put a good tightening on it. I'm going to look up the torque on this thing and see if it actually has a specific torque for it, and we'll get back. Alright guys, so the best thing I found was 47 foot-pounds for Honda rear wheel bearings. I never saw anything that said for 2009 Honda, but I saw some pictures and whatnot online, and never gave specific vehicles. It just said the torque spec for rear wheel bearing set, 47 foot-pounds. So I went a little more than that. I'm not sure quite how much. I kind of got it just about as tight as I really could. Bolts are pretty big, so I wasn't really too worried about stripping them. I got them on there pretty tight. So I got those on, and now I'm just gonna put my rotor back on, sitting right there, my brake assembly back on there, and we'll be done, guys. Alright, so we got that back on. Before you put your brakes back on, you may have to pop this pad out on the outside. Pop it out and just go ahead and squeeze your other brake pads. Press that caliper back in, that piston, just in order to get it back on here, guys. So you may not have to, but you just may. So if it don't go back on there, don't freak out. Just pop your brake on that side squeeze it on there. I just use the old C-clamp, squeeze it back on there, and it'll go right back on there, guys. Alright guys, so we got our caliper back on our rotor. Remember, some people will tell you to loosen these two smaller bolts. It is a lot easier to just take these two rear bolts out, get the whole caliper out your way, gives you more room. And as I say, you don't have to loosen these. Now if you were doing just the brake pads, you would just loosen these, but we're not doing brake pads. We're, you know, we did what we just did there, guys. So I tightened these bolts back down all the way I could with my finger, and now I'm going to finish them up. I think these call for 41 foot-pounds for what I can find. Again, I can't find anything that specifically says 2009 Honda Odyssey, but so I'm going to go tighten them down a pretty good bit. Alright, so we got my tire back on. Make sure you put your plastic or whatever you got on the outside. I always put my lug nuts on by finger first, then I'm going to hit them with the impact. Went ahead and pulled my jack stand out just so I wouldn't have to get around the tire to do it. We're going to tighten these down with the impact and we'll be done, guys. Alright guys, so that's that. Got it all tightened down. So that's how you replace the bearing set, the rear bearing set on a 2009 Honda Odyssey. Appreciate y'all watching, guys.